right, well, let's get this thing started. Let me turn off all my stuff. There we go. All right, so welcome everybody. This is gonna be a good webinar, I think. I've got a good feeling about this one. So welcome back everybody to the Gaming Concepts webinar series. Today, we are gonna be talking about the Esports Pipeline, the Pathway to Careers, I believe is the name of this one, Pathway to Careers. I keep wanting to say Pathways to Success is what I keep wanting to say, but either work, right? So my name's Alex Herbie. I'm the integrations manager for Generation Esports on the education team. We're going to go around and do introductions, but I'm going to kind of kick us off with some housekeeping rules so that we understand what's going on and that everybody gets to be heard here because we've got a lot of people on this one today. If you have a question, please throw that in chat so that myself or Dr. Custer, Dr. Russell can field those while our panelists are talking. We've got a lot of talking points to go over today. So if you have anything that you'd like to ask or chime in or add to the conversation, please go ahead and throw those in chat. I'd also like to throw out in chat right now if you'd like to say where you're from, just so we can see where everybody's joining us from. This is always something nice at the beginning to see where everybody's from, because it tends to be that we get coast to coast and maybe a couple extra outliers across the world. So it's always awesome to see that. So while you're putting that in here, I'm going to go around and have everyone introduce themselves. Christy, you want to go first, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. Well, I was an educator in K-12, actually a high school educator for 24 years. I started with being an English teacher, and then I went on to be a high school principal at a school for at-risk students, and I joined Generation Esports 3 years ago.
Awesome. Sari.
Hi, I'm Sari Kitelyn. I'm Director of Esports at Full Sail University, which is located in Orlando, Florida, a school that specializes in degree programs that support careers in entertainment, media, arts, and technology. So we have a pretty robust kind of 360 approach to esports at Full Sail. In addition to that, I am also the owner of Greater Orlando XP League, which is a youth esports organization here in Orlando, Florida. I am the chairman of the board for NACE, which is the National Association of Collegiate Esports, and one of the co-founders of Esports and Coffee, which is an organization dedicated to amplifying marginalized voices throughout gaming and esports. And I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. That's awesome. Steve.
Hey, everybody. My name's Steve Isaacs. I'm the Education Program Manager at Epic Games. At Epic, my focus is on secondary education and supporting educators and students in, really generating or nurturing that next generation of creators using our tools. So adoption of our tools in the classroom is what we focus on. But prior to coming to Epic, I was a classroom teacher for almost 30 years. I taught game design and development for the last 15 years of my career in New Jersey, and actually started my teaching journey in special education. My wife and I owned a computer training center many years ago. It was probably 30 years ago now, which got us really kind of into the whole tech and gaming and integration of games and learning side of things. And I actually was one of the founders or the co-founder of Garden State Esports, and now I'm over at Epic.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. Lakin.
Hi guys, I'm Lakin Zamorano. I'm a student at the University of Oklahoma, and then I also play for their esports team here. I am the living proof of the gaming concepts and that stuff kind of works. I came up through that, and now I'm at the collegiate level.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. So we've got every tier here. I guess we could have a high school kid here, but we pretty much got everybody here in this pathway to the careers, right? So we've got Sari here. I'm sorry, Sari, who is representing the collegiate space as an educator and as kind of an administrator there. We've got Lakin there that's going through the process, and then we have Steve who's in industry. Representing kind of that side. So we've got kind of a full spectrum here of voices to go through this. So I'd like to go ahead and talk about, where our personal journey starts. So we're going to start with Lakin. So Lakin, can you share your personal journey in esports and how it led to you receiving a scholarship from the University of Oklahoma?
Yeah, totally. So I started getting involved with my esports program at my high school my junior year. Our school started introducing things like gaming concepts and that type of curriculum to our classrooms. It also came with the competitive side, which is the high school esports league. I got involved with that stuff. I was pretty good at it, and I started getting recruited to go play for some schools. And now I'm here, and I get to play for their Call of Duty team.
It's awesome. So obviously that's not necessarily something that everyone is able to do, right? Like I don't know many kids that get collegiate type scholarships for video games, but what challenges did you face in pursuing that esports scholarship? Or did you even know it was coming?
I definitely didn't know it was coming. It was a surprise to me. I didn't even know this was a thing until about 2 years ago. Some of the challenges that I faced was, time management, super hard. You're still going to high school. I was still personally working a job outside, and then doing the whole esports thing is just like a whole nother thing. So it was definitely difficult to balancing my schedule out. And then just having to become more of a leader, speaking up, doing stuff like that. It's definitely skills that at a young age are good for you to have, but are hard to learn.
Awesome. Awesome.
And Sari, kind of piggybacking off of Lakin and his experience going from high school to college, as the director of esports programs at Full Sail, how do you see esports contributing to the overall education and career development of students? Lakin kind of talked about that leadership. What are you seeing?
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting because it's the aspect of the evolution of our spaces and what they provide for the way that we're going to learn as a whole, right? And so the cool thing, what esports has really done and what we've seen at Full Sail is it's almost elevated all of the connections that we have to things that have already existed, particularly things like content creation, just technology and technological components, the way problem solving and kind of brainstorming is working. Has almost refreshed some areas of industry that may have been archaic by bringing some really neat and unique practices kind of into the fold. And that has definitely happened before, obviously, when other, innovative kind of ways have sort of entered into an existing space. But with esports, what we're seeing is it's innovation all around. We're having innovation with these students themselves. We're having a deeper connection kind of through their educational philosophy and what they're learning and how they've decided to learn. And then those opportunities waiting for them post-graduation are evolving as well. So I think that the evolution of those existing spaces has really been incredibly fascinating from an educational perspective.
And I've gotten to see the evolution of Lakin, and we met a student of yours, Sari Cam. I can't remember what his last. Okay, thank you. And just the way that they present themselves, and he mentioned how before esports and before going to college and becoming a representative, that might not have been an opportunity that he would have to represent his school. And I think we get that a lot from the high school students to the college students. I remember a student from Texas who he kept patting his chest because he had on a jersey that said, we'll do a shout out to Hebron High School out in Texas. He kept patting his chest and saying, I never thought I'd get to do this. I thought only the football players got to do this. And so I love that part of it also. So when students come to Full Sail, like what type of support do you guys offer to prepare students for careers in esports or careers in general, just beyond playing the games?
Yeah, sure. So for us, when it comes to what they're doing with us collegiately, esports is our careers is the number one thing we lead with as far as what we're doing with our esports program or holistically as we approach it. And there are definitely those universities out there with highly competitive programs that do focus on, the path to pro is getting has collegiate in the mix now, more than it has before. And it's definitely an avenue. For us, that's not the way that we're functioned, that we're built. And so the conversation that I have far too often is, I love that you love gaming and esports. I love it so much. Loving them is not enough to have a career in them. So let's talk about what it is that you love and what you want to do and how we can kind of bridge those two things together. So for us, day one of any of our esports students that are within the program is figuring out what that is. And if they're not completely sure, they have a specific direction, then we make sure we can get them as much of that experience as humanly possible so that they can kind of realize it or see it, or have more of an investment in the avenue that they want to pursue because it ties directly to their passion. 100% of the programs that we offer at Full Sail all relate to the esports industry. Ours are specialized, but you'll find that at most universities. These are not just esports related degree programs. We have a ton of students that come through from the PR perspective. We have a student right now in our new media journalism program. She's fantastic, and she started a show, a podcast where she's interviewing people and diving into esports related content. And she's kind of existed sort of going into that space, and now is learning how to amplify her voice with those tools, but as existing in the esports space. We have a ton of students. We have a sports casting degree program on our campus. And at this point, about 30% of those students coming through want to do shoutcasting for esports and gaming. And so there's that connectivity there. And above all, honestly, it's really a lot in content creation, which is from every aspect of things. And that's a really good way that the esports avenue really helps prepare career-wise for a multitude of careers, because for a lot of things that we've seen over the last handful of years, user-generated content is replacing traditional advertising in so many successful avenues and areas. And to be able to be a complete content creator on your own, to be able to know how to generate that content, how to turn things around really quickly, while that stems and starts a lot with gaming, streaming, and esports, that's a skill set that is beneficial and useful globally, that can kind of transfer and get anywhere that you need to go. So the fact that at 14, we're seeing kids that know exactly how to set up a full stream setup. They can take their clips, they can edit those clips, they know what they want to post to social, and they have a strategy associated with it, means that by the time they're 22, they have 8 years experience doing this, a full portfolio, all of the skills that are required. And that is the biggest thing that most organizations, esports, gaming, and otherwise, are looking for, is someone that can come in and just start getting through content to replace what they had for advertising,
Right.
Exactly. And we go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and and we think about the workforce today, all of us that are working right now, like we didn't start the workforce with all of this content creation where we're trying to do LinkedIn posts and we're trying to push things to YouTube and do social media. We didn't have that training. And so it's kind of been dumped on us. So this new workforce that's coming up, being grown with that, I can't imagine how much, because I wouldn't say my posts are very good, right? Because I try, but it's like, these kids that are coming up through this program of content creation, I can't think of how much better things are going to look and be, and how more engaging they are, because they're not a secondary skill. They are a primary skill that's bled into the rest of the characteristics of their job. So I just wanted to mention that. But Christy.
And AI opens up a whole new content creation, wormhole that we could go into that can be for another webinar that we do. Steve, let's talk a little bit about Epic Games and all the cool things that Epic is doing. Mike and I have both been through the Unreal Engine Accelerator. It was amazing. Fortnite is one of our games of choice in the Christy Custer household. I have a 10-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 19-year-old. So that makes that fun. So Epic's kind of it's kind of the intersection of education and gaming. And it's really embraced that what Sari was talking about and what Alex is talking about, these students that are coming up, they have an expectation that this is going to be part of their world. It is part of their world. So can you talk to us a little bit about what Epic Games is doing, some of the initiatives and programs that they have in place to support students and really teachers also in preparing careers that leverage that interest that they have in gaming.
Sure. And yeah, thanks, Christy. And it's interesting. One thought that came to me as I'm listening to people talk, I'm like, I mean, just to start, I have always been passionate about games. I love games, and I would have never thought, that I would have an opportunity to work in a big game company. Meanwhile, I was an educator, and yet here I am. So part of that, I think, I just like to always remind people that, following kind of your passion and the people that are excited, the kids that are excited about games and want to be surrounded by this environment. I mean, that's where I think it gets really exciting to then explore much further what's possible. And we're very big into, the creator community and trying to build, a community of creators. And our tools are industry standard tools that are being used across, I think, Sari started to mention, and it's been mentioned a few times, all of the different industries that utilize this. So broadcasting certainly has a direct tie to esports, and that's a huge area where tools like Unreal Engine are being used. On the education side, we have a broadcast package that is used a lot in esports, allows, students or teachers or whomever to customize their studio and then use that as the studio that they're broadcasting from. But all the while, they're learning the Unreal Engine skills as well, and they're learning interactive 3D and all of that. But beyond that, we have a number of micro courses that provide opportunities for kids to learn, to use Unreal Engine to see what it's like in the different industries. Like in animation, we have a course called Unreal Futures Careers in Animation, one careers in advertising, and one careers in fashion. And each of those kind of talks about how those industries are being transformed by gaming technology. And, students can hear from these industry professionals from like Disney and RealFX and, the company that creates advertising for Oreo cookie. And then each of those courses has a hands-on activity that kids get into Unreal Engine and are learning what it's like to do those skills in that area. So like in the advertising one, kids recreate an Oreo cookie ad, which is pretty cool, and things like that. So we're really trying to help with the onboarding process of this technology, leverage students' interest in games and game technology. I mean, a lot of times, we refer to the fact that Fortnite is created in Unreal Engine. That's a nice bridge and exciting, idea for students to say, wait, if that's how that's made, what can I do, or how can I learn that? And, so that's our goal. And our goal also really is to support teachers in such a way that they don't have to be an expert. So as you saw, like in the accelerator, most of our learning modules are, are intended to be, almost turnkey. Like the activities have step-by-step guides. We look at the teacher more as a support in the classroom rather than the one who has to be the expert and teach all of the content. And I see benefits in that for so many reasons. But so we're really trying to just provide those opportunities to help students get career skills that might have even been mentioned on this already here, that not every kid's going to go to a four-year university necessarily. Imagine if a student in high school leaves with their portfolio demonstrating the skills they have and can actually potentially enter into the career market, or think of how that supports them in going further, to have this portfolio to help them, when they look to colleges and such. So, I see a lot of it as like, I always use the term esports adjacent, like everything's related, but yet, this just helps expand what the possibilities are once we get started down that path or that interest area.
Yeah,
Steve,
absolutely.
just because I am following the chat and I'm so grateful, Mike Russell, who we just skipped right over as the introduction. Mike is
We all know
running the
Mike.
chat.
As usual.
Everyone
as
knows Mike.
perfectly fine.
Rude, so rude. Mike knows that I get distracted very easily, and so he runs the chat so that I'm not trying to do 5 different things and I can just focus. And so, Mike, thank you for being here. And he was a former entrepreneur, and then he became a social studies teacher at my high school, and we co-write together. But Mike and I went to the Unreal Engine Accelerator, and I just noticed the chat just exploded with questions a little bit about the Unreal Engine Accelerator. And I may even be saying that wrong. In my mind, that's what it is. Can you talk a little bit? I know we have a lot of teachers on here. Would you mind talking a little bit about what that is? And there's some questions about cost and
Yeah,
would
absolutely.
you take a little bit of time to do that?
Absolutely. So the Unreal Educator Accelerator, so we have a couple of things. We have our accelerator experiences, which are shorter, like half or full day workshops for teachers. And then over the summer, we have a week-long intensive institute that's our Unreal Educator Accelerator that both you and Mike participated in. And that takes educators through basically all the tools in our ecosystem to demonstrate and guide teachers in how they can bring those into the classroom. And quite honestly, a lot of that is, hands-on activities that are basically samples of what the projects are that students would be doing, really with the intent that educators then continue the learning after that and feel confident in bringing these tools into the classroom. But so it's 5 days, full days, great instructors, breakout time to work on projects and such. But just a really, well, of course I'm biased, but I think it's a great, professional development opportunity.
It is. Well, and just to throw this in here, and I'm making a plug, but we didn't plan on me making a plug. So Mike and I, for those that know on here that know Mike and I have very limited skills, and by design, I don't enjoy particularly technology and all of that stuff, and Mike does. It was scaffolded for a person that has very limited skills and a person that has great skills. And I learned a ton and became much more comfortable just, with the terminology in the space. Fortnite, that was something. So it was a great bridge because I had someone right there that could, when I got stuck, that person was right there to help me. So I'll put a plug in for teachers.
I appreciate you bringing that part up because our whole goal, and this really comes, from my experience in the classroom, I was not an expert in tools like Unreal. I taught game design. I wanted my kids to have the opportunity to choose what tool they wanted to use, but I wasn't necessarily going to be able to teach it. So they went about owning a lot of the learning with, so when we started creating resources for teachers for Unreal, we wanted to make sure it was something that a teacher could easily say, hey, if you're interested in learning this, here are the resources, everything's there that you need, and I'm here to support you. And that was sort of how I tried to teach my class. So hopefully, and it sounds like that comes across in the training. So I appreciate that.
It absolutely does. And also is on the flip side of a very similar backstory to you, Steve. Your competitor's platform, Unity, is not so easy to learn by yourself for somebody who is fairly tech savvy. So I'll have to say that because we did the game design and I posted it in chat. But if you are comparing these two platforms, I can't say enough about Unreal and how much easier it is to use to get going. So
I appreciate that.
True story. I can vouch for that too. Yeah.
All right.
That's
absolutely
a lot more skill than what I have to do that. So thank you, Unreal.
Awesome. Yeah, exactly. So talking about not talking about anything. I think we're transitioning a little bit here. I want to talk to Lakin real quick about, we've talked about some skills that you come out with, right? But what skills or what advice would you give? What advice for skills or for kind of characteristics or products would you give to aspiring esports players who are considering pursuing scholarships at the collegiate level?
Yeah, that's another really good question. I think some advice that I would give, personally, like I had to learn a lot of, I already talked about it once, time management. Also being able to I think it's really important for kids to learn this pretty early on, is being able to analyze slash like criticize yourself and realize like what you're good at and what you're not good at and what you need to work on. Talking to people, communication, that's really important. And then also it's a lot of responsibility to do the whole esports thing. You have to be able to balance everything, like I said, with the time management. So those are some of the skills that I think are super important for students that are trying to do this. And I think those skills have helped mature me in the past 2 years a lot faster than some other people.
Yeah. Are there anything product wise, like artifact wise or content wise, that you would suggest, students that are looking to be breaking into the esports world at the collegiate level to be working towards right now?
And Lakin, before you answer that question, what is your major? What are you planning on majoring in?
So I'm majoring in creative media production. So that's kind of like the video broadcast world. So I think tools for students to use. Do you want to know like for esports or for like as a student? I'm a little
I would say for esports, like what esports things could kids be creating to be that the collegiate space would be looking for?
Like to be recruited,
oh
especially?
Yeah,
There were
yeah,
a couple of parents on here
yeah,
that
of
yeah.
course.
asked,
That's
how
what
does
I'm
my kid
hinting
get
at.
recruited? And
Yeah,
Sari,
yeah.
we're coming to you next, lady, so about recruitment.
Yeah, of course. So when I was getting recruited, I was creating highlight reels of myself, putting together videos. I created a social media presence for my school. A lot of schools don't really have those for their esports teams. Sure, they'll have one, but they won't have a social media presence. So I was doing stuff like creating graphics, creating hype videos for my team, um, posting actively on social media, and then also just learning to promote myself and put myself out into the world. It's not just as easy as it used to be to get recruited is just sending an email to a coach. You got to put yourself out. You got to let yourself try and be known in the world, and especially in like this space. I feel like this space isn't too hard to be noticed in, but to get where students want to be, wherever that is, I think it's really important that they spread themselves out and give themselves a ton of options of where they can go.
Lakin,
Awesome.
did you reach out to your coach or did your coach reach out to you?
My coach reached out to me, so it works.
So he found you, yeah. So it worked. It worked. The system works.
Was it how did your coach reach out?
He found our hype video for our season that was coming up. He just wanted to hear about it because he was interested in doing one himself, and then we kind of got started talking about me, and then that's where the whole recruitment process started.
Cool.
Awesome. How has being part of a collegiate esports team or program influenced your personal and professional development, either with gaming or without gaming?
I think being a part of it has been super influential for me, because it's put me on a broader landscape, especially just with how big the scene is at times, being able to have so many different connections, learning how to communicate with people. I mean, you really get to spread yourself out across a ton of different things. Obviously, I'm just a video major, but I'm learning stuff, like graphic design, social media, content creation, stuff like that. I think esports has been super influential just because it's helping spread me out into industries that I didn't even know I had interest in.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Awesome. So speaking of that, Full Sail, Sari, is known for like the real world experience and being able, and you mentioned it earlier, being able to connect esports to all of these different areas in industry and careers. How does the esports program align um, with the philosophy that esports can be the jumping off point, right? How does it align to that, and what opportunities do students have to gain practical experience in the esports industry?
Sure. So for us, like I'd mentioned, it's kind of Full Sail's approach to everything that we teach. So it was certainly our approach to esports. It had to go with the career first. Then we kind of fill in to support that. And for us, it's kind of like a twofold. Anybody that is participating in our program in any way, whether it's varsity athlete or community member or anything of the sort. They all are gaining communication skills, the ability to recover from a loss or a setback. Those are things that I think generally that esports is providing. For us, elevated to that is we are representing the full breadth of the esports industry within opportunities on our campus so that those students can get that experience. So most folks know we have an esports arena on campus, the Full Sail University Orlando Health Fortress. I want credit for saying the full name. But that's on our campus. We also have another live venue as well. And those spaces are classrooms for us. Show production and touring is one of our longest running degree programs. It's been going on over 40 years at this point, and learning how to produce an event in a professional venue is what students come here to learn. And knowing that those elevated experiences, those high level productions are esports events at this point, the students started kind of pivoting in that direction, and we came behind to support with the Fortress. And so what I love so much about the Fortress and how we kind of utilize it is we do not use the Fortress as a revenue generator. We are, for us, that's not what the purpose of it is to be. And so in doing that, we don't have any inventory requirements. There's nothing that I'm trying to necessarily navigate. And what I can do with that is I can make sure I have a variety of different clients that are coming in to utilize this space so we can get a breadth of experience. We're entertaining different titles. We're entertaining independent events. We're entertaining publisher run events, things that have a very strict brand guidelines and things that are hurry up and figure it out to create your own, things that are utilizing IP that has regulations and rule sets that we need to follow, and varying levels of production support. And so the great thing about that is we're able to pick and choose what we want to bring in so that our students can get that experience. In exchange, we offer a pretty, you'll be hard pressed to find anything less expensive than nothing. But because we're not profiting off of the space, we have the clients provide a fee to use the Fortress in the form of a scholarship. So it'll go to a student that's working that event, that's involved in it, it goes directly to them. And that kind of helps sort of facilitate that level of conversation. And so we've been able to bring in some fantastic clients and events that we develop partnerships with. For anything that we're hosting in our space, we view it as a partnership. So we want to bring those students that experience from that partnership. So for example, we have hosted quite a few events with Red Bull, a lot when they were doing their fighting game events, and they'll bring a full crew and it's one-to-one. So each of their production crew members has a student that shadows them throughout the entire weekend, which is wonderful experience for those students. We hosted the XP League North American Finals, which staffs about 150 students in everything from TOs to observing to cam op to production managers to lighting and sound, everything in between. They get a ton of that experience. And so for us, when we're trying to identify who we Full Sail want to partner with, we do so in the understanding that we want to know what that's going to provide for our students. So Full Sail does the investing in the spaces that will draw in the clients, and then we ask the clients to in turn invest in our students because they're getting a benefit from us and from being able to do that with us. And so between that level of connection of things that we can provide on campus, the other thing that is so important is connecting with local areas, as far as anything that's drivable, 8 hours or less, connecting with those areas, because you're going to find small LAN events, large conventions and conferences. You'll find events that are not gaming and esports events, but then now they're all having these esports stages or these esports areas or these gaming focus areas. Those all have a tremendous amount of opportunity for students to gain that experience as well, learning how to set things up. I'll give an example of something that we do. One of our partners that we really, really love is a group called Supergirl. They are a surfing company, or a company organization that's focused on helping girls get into surfing and have more girls that are surfing at a young age. They started the crossover into esports a couple years ago, and now they do Supergirl Gamer at all of their events. And we've been able to partner with them, and our students go in and they set up a full tournament and they run it and they do everything from the technical side to hosting and casting to management of the space and the situation. And they treat our students so well, they really do. But in exchange, there's also a lot of a learning experience. So last couple of years, that event has been in Jacksonville. And this year they did one in Oceanside, California. And they flew our students out to California from Florida to produce the event, which was amazing for them. And it was on the beach, like on the beach. And so while we were so thankful for the extension cords, the power outages on a constant rotation in this beachfront esports venue tripped IP, and we were no longer able to connect anymore. The event stopped after 2 hours and they had to figure something else out. And as crazy as that is, and as awful as something like that is, you have to go through it. Everyone's got to learn that lesson somehow. And we've all learned it and we've all had it in one way or another. Yes, we're all going to play Fortnite. Turns out we're not all going to play Fortnite, apparently, because we can't all play from the same room without telling them, or whatever that conversation is. You have to learn it. And our students got to figure that out and say, okay, we can no longer log into Valorant. We tripped the IP. We can't do it. What do we do? Okay, we're going to pivot and we're going to do an open Apex tournament. I have a contact at Apex. Let me call them. Okay, my friend works there. Let's figure this out. It took an hour. They went dark, but then they had to figure out how to bring an experience to the people that were attending. And that learning experience is something they will never be able to match or mirror in anything that they're ever going to get to be able to do. Does that translate to a resume? I figured out how to save a beachfront esports tournament. It doesn't, but it transitions to them. It gives them that confidence. Now they're going to walk into DreamHack and say, yes, I can be a TO here at DreamHack. I know how to handle anything that's going to be weird that comes up, and I can pivot on the fly and I know what I'm doing. And it's finding those opportunities that are so helpful and so big. Local YMCAs are having them. Local schools, again, like we're all talking about, are trying to do it, connecting with college students and being able to get them to produce or put something on at your school, especially if the space is not outfitted already for esports, is a tremendous learning experience for college students to figure out how to do that. To walk into a huge state-of-the-art esports arena and set up for an esports event is really fun and a lot easier. To go into an old art classroom and try to set up for esports event is where they get the real experience.
Siri, I'd like to jump just for a second, because you had mentioned, girls and surfing and the initiatives. I know that's off topic here, but I want to bring this into the topic. I know that females and underrepresented populations, there's a lot of talk about that in esports, in gaming, in STEM. I mean, it's not even just in STEM. And one of the reasons that's so important is diversity anywhere is always better. And then these are high paying jobs also. Can you talk a little bit? I know you've been very active in getting underrepresented populations into Full Sail, into esports, into gaming, into STEM. Can you talk a little bit about some of your initiatives, some of Full Sail's initiatives, some of your esports and coffee?
Of course.
Yeah,
you did. Yeah. And would love to. It's my favorite topic to talk about, because the more that we talk about it, the better everything's going to look, right? And the better that we're all going to do. The biggest thing is within esports, and I think honestly STEM and technology in general, we have an equity issue, right? And a lot of folks confuse equity and equality when we're having that conversation. And yes, equality is there. Everyone has the exact same chance to apply for the same job, and everyone has the exact same chance to get the same degree, and everyone has the exact same chance to join a team. We're not talking about equality, we're talking about equity. And it's the fact that until we hit a benchmark where we're seeing proper and reflective representation in the spaces that we're looking at, then we do not have an equitable path to get there. And the biggest thing that we want to try to do is alter that and change that and amplify that. So for me, how I view it, as someone in the collegiate space, is I serve students. And if I'm serving students and I'm, beating the drum that this is a space that deserves the next generation of young minds and intelligence, and they're going to continue to innovate and make progress through everything in gaming and coding and STEM and otherwise, then I have an obligation to commit myself regularly to making sure that landscape is an equitable place for everybody that's entering into it. In the esports space specifically, that's where I obviously spend a lot of my time, but a lot of the spaces that we're talking through, we all have to work harder to show marginalized communities that they're represented here, or else we're not going to see more marginalized voices represented here. It's hard to walk into a room where you don't see yourself. And the only way that you can really start to see yourself is if there's somebody there that either is looking like you or representing of you. And those voices extend far. I am tapped pretty frequently to speak on diversity issues. I'm tapped frequently to serve on panels. And in every one, I have to say, if I am here to be your diversity checkbox, then you have work to do. I am a cisgender middle-aged white woman. I am the lowest form of diversity that there is. You open your eyes. There's a lot here. And in gaming and esports, I find that to be even more important, because what esports can provide as a unifier is unmatched, I think, industry-wide. And something often not talked about is what it provides for accessibility and adaptability. There is more innovation in gaming and esports and accessibility than there is in any other industry that has been around significantly longer, to be able to kind of hit that level playing field. We should be, and we are, leading the way in having that accessible experiences and opportunities for folks in our space, and that should be talked about and reflected in all of our DEI efforts. And on the contrary to that, an area that I think we're significantly further behind in, that we have a lot of work to do, is representation of people of color. That is an area that we're really significantly lacking, and I consider us behind quite a few other industries. And that has a lot to do with what has been accessible to folks at a young age, where they areas that they came from, and what their generation before them is kind of bringing to this landscape. Again, an equity perspective. We don't have generational wealth in some of these marginalized communities, and they're starting it over, and they're starting for the first time. And so I think for all of us, it's being able to be mindful of that in everything that we're doing. It's mindful. DEI cannot be a vertical in your structure or your strategy. DEI has to be a thread in everything that you're doing, or it's going to burn out, and it's going to burn out quickly. This is our obligation. We're starting an industry, all of us together. We're building it ourselves brick by brick, and we want to build it the right way, and we have the ability to. We have an obligation to do so.
Thank you, lady,
Yes,
for speaking
absolutely.
about that. And
Steve?
it is so important. It's so important. And I want to mention one other thing, just because of the people on this call. Lake, and I don't know you as well, but I know that Mike and Alex, they champion me all the time, and they push me out front all the time, sometimes to their detriment, that they do that. And Steve, I know you do that. You push Kathy, your wife, out there all the time, and because she's a superstar. And so I appreciate it takes everybody to do that. And so I appreciate that. And thank you for your words there, Sari.
I'll
Alex,
add to
now
that.
make you transition. Oh,
I'm
go
going to
ahead.
add to that real quick. I had to shout out Jacob in the chat, because he's my biggest hype person, and that's why he's here right now, because he will never miss any panel that any of us ever do.
There you go.
That's awesome.
But I heard a comment once that really resonated with me. Dr. Sarah Hayes said it. She's a phenomenal psychologist that does a lot in gaming. And she just said that, movements happen thanks to allies of privilege. And all of us are allies, and all of us are privileged in some capacity, in some situation, and in some scenario. And it's being able to know that and understand that. While I might have a hard uphill battle in some situations where I'm a woman, I have a much easier time than people of color. And so it's my obligation to be an ally to that community when that is needed. And that's where it kind of reiterates back through. I love that you have that allyship in your community. I know that we all do. I have felt it wholeheartedly from Steve. We work together a ton and love it so much. It's something I love so much about this space. And it's just that being intentional, and forward progress with it.
Absolutely. Like it's a wonderful thing to be in this space and see the innovation and see what can be done and also thinking about the future and what will be done, and I think it's a great intersection to be at. So I'd like to transition to Steve. We've got a lot of questions I want to get through, not to push this issue to the side, but I think that we've covered a lot of it, and I don't know that anyone could expand upon it any better. So, I think that you did a great job with that. So Steve, I'd like to know about, specifically talking about some of the education products that come from Unreal. You've got Fortnite Creative, you've got the Educator Accelerator, you've got the Rube Goldberg Challenge, that's built within these things. How can educators effectively integrate game technology to correlate with academic and practical skills?
Yeah, great question. I mean, there are some areas that are, like clearly obvious, like a lot of the CTE topics and whether it be, like animation, computer science, game design and such. But again, with the expansion of the different industries as well, we've made a real effort to be, cross-curricular in much of our programming. So we have a number of things like lesson plans. I'll drop a link in a minute to our lesson plan library that cover, different content areas. And the idea being that, I think, it's interesting. You have tools like the way teachers use like Minecraft in the classroom, and they allow kids to express themselves with a tool like that. Fortnite Creative is very much the same. As a sandbox environment, you can really create anything and use that as your platform. So, and Unreal Engine, if kids are learning those skills as well, they're learning skills to bring them into, career possibilities. So I see it a lot of times like, a student can create a PowerPoint presentation to demonstrate their learning about ancient Egypt, or they could create an experience in Unreal or Unreal Editor now for Fortnite. And the motivation that you see in students when they're, provided the opportunity to use these tools, so it's not so much about having to spend an inordinate amount of time teaching the tool, but rather teaching enough that they can use it, to produce, like an immersive experience, which is pretty profound, right? Like if a kid could create an immersive walkthrough experience in one of these tools and then learn enough about that tool to say, wow, I can use this. That's pretty incredible. And, I think, the ability to then, instead of in a class environment, where, like the traditional thing might be doing a presentation in front of the class and every kid listens to 30 presentations that look fairly similar. How great is it when kids can be immersed in the experience that their peer created and learn from that? So that's a lot of the approach that we take. Like we have, language arts activities around creating an alternate ending to a novel, using again one of these tools that could be Fortnite Creative or Unreal and that kind of thing. So, we definitely have a focus around, some of the areas like game design and such, but we also really emphasize the value in all students becoming creators and at least being exposed to the opportunity. It doesn't mean that every kid that touches Unreal has to go out and get a job using Unreal, but I think every kid that has the experience or the exposure is better off for, at least being exposed and seeing if this is something that they're interested in pursuing further. So that's a lot of the way. And, as you had mentioned, things again, like the training we provide, it's really so much about providing educators with access to see that they can use these tools and that they can empower their students to learn, you know. So that's always our hope, is that we don't want people to be intimidated. We try very hard to break down some of the barriers to entry. And that's what a lot of the things, just to kind of, in the chat, there were some people saying they were having trouble accessing, Unreal Engine because maybe they can't use the Epic Games launcher. Well, to combat that, we came up with an offline installer that educators can install and run Unreal without needing that. So, all of those things, access and, and, breaking down those barriers, that's a lot of what we're trying to do to just, again, create the opportunity. We want kids to have these opportunities, and, that's our goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking to, skills and opportunities, I'm reminding my brother-in-law, he's an architect, and he learned Unreal Engine in order to stand out in architecture. No one in architecture at his firm was doing Unreal, and he was porting Rivet models,
That's great.
Autodesk Rivet models into Unreal. And some of the things on his website were awesome. I mean, they looked real, right? They looked so good because of the time he took, and that's what he was bringing clients through. So kind of spreading it out a little bit past the arts and media
Totally.
thing,
Totally.
Where game design and where this software can take you is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But what specific skills or qualities are you seeing are probably the most used by students who are going through things like Fortnite Creative or Unreal Engine?
So, I mean, a lot of these skills are transferable in terms of there are a number of different products out there and tools out there that might be related in terms of these different industries. So for one, I think getting that feeling and that comfort in in tools that involve 3D, I think is really valuable. I know at the beginning I kind of struggled because I was coming from, it's actually funny, Frank Moody's on in the audience, and I use Game Maker Studio quite a bit, which is a 2D game creation tool, which I absolutely love, or mostly 2D. But then I moved into trying to play around in 3D, and that was like different for me. So I think for one, kids come with a level of expertise already that they can then build upon, and that's huge. But I think they're learning. They're definitely learning some computer science, concepts. And even with that, we have a visual scripting language called Blueprint, so it kind of eases them into that process. They're learning, to whether it be 3D modeling or working with assets that they might, be. One of the cool things that we've been doing a lot with lately is photogrammetry, where you might use just your phone to scan a 3D object and then bring that into Unreal Engine. So from an academic standpoint, we're personalizing what people are able to use as assets in their project, but at the same time, they're developing those skills as well. So, I think that's a lot of, but it's, and my gosh, it's very interesting because there are so many facets to it. Like some of our resources teach kids how to use the sequencer for animation. Now that's a small part of Unreal Engine, but a huge part in terms of, the TV and film industry, as well as animation and all that. So, I think what's kind of cool also is that there are so many different areas that you could hone in on based on your interest without feeling like you have to, be a master of all.
Lakin, we didn't forget about you down there. We have a question from the audience for you, Lakin. It's from Sam Ward, and he's asking, if you had to do it all again, would you do anything differently or wish you had access to a type of tool, program, or support mechanism to help you on your journey to a scholarship at a college?
I think I was pretty lucky. I had a good set of resources. I think the one thing that I would say is just like an actual an in-person place. I believe that's super important for kids to have somewhere to actually go play together, be together, interact with one another. I think that's super important. It's something that I like to see both at the collegiate and the high school level for kids involved in these types of programs. It's just one place for them to all be together and share experiences.
And like, and how have you been able to balance the demands of being a student athlete with other academic and personal responsibilities? And do you feel like it's similar to drama, drama students with drama scholarships, students with band scholarships, students with traditional athletic scholarships?
Yeah, it's definitely similar in a way. I think for me personally, it took a lot of learning. It's not easy to balance all these different factors of, practice and school and still having a social life if you have to work, stuff like that. So it's definitely not easy. But I think the thing that's helped me out the most is just every day I plan out my day. I figure out when I need to do what. And then the most important thing that my dad always told me is you're a student athlete, so academics have to come before the other stuff. So that's an easy way for me to balance what I do.
About how many hours a day, a week do you practice? Is it daily?
Yeah, so it's every weekday and it's anywhere from like 4 to 6 hours on a normal day.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's a decent chunk of time every day, but it works itself out.
Right.
And I want to break in
Well,
real quick. Sari's mentioning to me that she needs to run to another show that she has to be on. So I just want to say thank you to her and thank you so much for your insights and being on this panel. And we hope that you'll be back.
Absolutely, anytime. Happy to be here, and I'm on LinkedIn. I'm the only person in the world with my name, so it's easy to find. If you
There you
need to
go.
get in touch.
Thank you so
thank
much.
you,
Thanks.
Sari.
Hi,
Thanks,
Sarah.
guys. Bye.
And then Lake, and the other follow-up question that I wanted to ask was how are esports athletes viewed on campus from your perspective?
I think it's a little bit different actually. In high school, I think it was a little bit more there's a little bit more like I guess you could say like prejudice, a little more judgy, That's just kind of how high school is though, all those hormones and all that going on down there. But I think college has been super welcoming. I haven't had a bad interaction. I think people up here kind of can recognize, wow, that's super cool. I didn't know you could do that with video games. Um I think it's been great. I don't feel any negative emotions or anything like that about it.
Yeah. Any advice as we kind of get close out, and then we'll jump over to Steve. Any advice, Lakin, for parents, students, teachers who are like, wow, this is exciting, and this whole episode is about careers and that pipeline that we're trying to build. Thoughts about that?
Yeah, my only advice is just, get involved, do what you can, put yourself out there. There's so much scholarship money and opportunities here at the collegiate level for students to be involved with something that, maybe they like video production, esports, wherever they want to go in this industry. There's so many opportunities and there's so much scholarship money. I know that, college isn't built for everyone as far as, like financially. So being able to take advantage of these opportunities is super important, and there's so many of them.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Speaking of opportunities, I'd like to jump to Steve here on the last question. Well, I got one more after this, but Steve asked, being from industry, how can educators and institutions collaborate more with places like Epic or, the products that you have to enhance their experience with their students?
Great question. One of the things that I love so much about my job and my role is that I get to work closely with educators and develop relationships with educators. I can say that I'm very accessible to speak with teachers about how we can support them. And again, my true hope is that any support that I lend obviously is there to expand opportunities for students. So, and I guess it's interesting too, because when I was in the classroom, I really went out of my way to create relationships with companies that I was interested in or that my students were engaging with their products. So it's funny, again, I'll mention Frank, but years ago, I was doing stuff with Yo-Yo Games, who makes Game Maker Studio, because that's what my students were using. And I just wanted to be involved and inform, like, it came out of my interest, but I ended up becoming involved and, actually advocate, becoming somewhat of an ambassador, and same with like Brain Pop and the Minecraft education team and such. So I think these, organizations and companies are all interested in building those relationships. I think the challenge we have sometimes is that people don't realize that that's really there. I hope everybody, knows, or at least whoever we're speaking to tonight now understands that we have an education team that's here to support. So I just hope that that relationship building, helps. That leads to speaking with, maybe school leaders if we need to talk about the benefits. We offer like webinars to kind of explain what interactive 3D is and really paint the picture of the value of that in, education as preparing students for these emerging careers. So I think there's just a lot to be said for awareness, reaching out and all, but I mean it when I say that I'm available. So, there's nothing that makes me happier than supporting a teacher and getting started in the classroom.
Great. So everyone will get Steve's phone number and the email.
I'll throw my email in there for sure. My
Yeah.
phone number if you really want it. But
Steve, I know you have it. We get this sometimes, Mike and I. People will say, when I email you, is it really you?
Yeah. Right.
It's really me.
Yeah, well, someday, maybe, just maybe someday I'll have somebody else, handling my email, but I don't really want that, but that would be,
yeah.
okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome. Well, hopefully everybody has gotten kind of this awesome view of how things can progress from, from Lakin's standpoint all the way up through Steve, or through Sari, and the different ways that kids can interact, engage, and kind of, really explode through esports. I have one more very important question I like to ask. This is going to be my new catchphrase question, to Steve and to Lakin. RGB or no RGB? What are your thoughts?
I can answer first. I don't like RGB. I think it's too much for me. It's like
There we go.
I'm gonna play dumb here. RGB or no RGB?
All the lights, all the gamer lights.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. See, I'm sorry, I would say LED, but okay, but or
LED.
So you know what? I think I would love, like, I'm jealous when I'm on a Zoom call and somebody has a super cool environment behind them with the LED lights and everything, but I don't have the patience to set it up. But I would dig it.
I would agree with that. I think if it's done really well, I think it looks awesome. But most of the time, I'm with
I
like.
say he has to have a different wrap-up question. I'm sorry.
Oh, come on! No, we're trying to have fun here at the end. Would you have a better question you'd like to ask Christy? Something you want to get out?
No. I'm giving you a
No,
hard
I like
time.
it. It's a good question because, but it,
Chat can involve too. Here we can involve chat too if you guys feel strongly about RGB or non-RGB. So thank you everybody. This is awesome. I'm so glad that we were able to do this with everybody. I want to post where this is going to be at here in chat. Everybody here is going to get a follow-up email from me, really me, with your certificate for completion for being here today. And so everything will be on our YouTube channel. So this is my obligatory like and subscribe for those of you that are watching this on YouTube, and you can see more stuff like this. But again, I just want to thank everybody that was on here today for the panel. I want to thank everybody that was in the audience. We had such a good conversation, and hopefully everybody got something out of this to enhance their esports journey or wherever they're going to take this. So again, thank you so much for being here, and we will see you next time. Go ahead and stick around though if you want to chat, because we'll be here for another few minutes. So
Thank you, everyone.